Hi, I'm Eric Mieni, and this is Breaking New Ground, where we look at housing and how it affects you. Most of us who live in the cities consider rural areas like this as our true homes, where we can smell the clear air, and at night it feels like we can reach up and touch the stars. They are so close. These are the simple things we miss in the big city, where we work all the time just to get by. But let's not over-romanticize all this, because 70% of all low-income households in South Africa live out here in the rural areas. Simple things that we city folks take for granted, like shopping malls, 24-hour banking services, transportation nodes, are not that easily accessible out here. In fact, housing finance in particular was virtually non-existent to rural people until now. The Rural Housing Loan Fund is a government agency that was set up to provide housing loans to low-income households, especially in the rural areas. The idea here is to give people access to loans that will help them harness their own savings, sweat, and ingenuity to improve and build their own homes over time. Let's see how this agency does its work. Dutwa in the Eastern Cape is one of the many rural towns throughout the country where finance for building materials has become accessible. 48% of the people that the Rural Housing Loan Fund finances are women, and for someone like Bulelwa Magida, it has provided the catalyst to improving her living conditions as well as developing her home into a space that brings in revenue for her and her family.
Ndaya phaya ebuild ndiyofuna uqonda uba ndingayifumana njani imaterial ndingenayo ucash bandixelela ngelenko.
Okay, ikusebenzele kakuhle.
Yho, indisebenzele kakuhle kakhulu. Uyibona nje le ndlu yonke ndiyakhe ngeloan yaselenko.
So ibinzima uyifumana le loan?
Khange kube nzima because yonke into ababeyifuna i-particulars ababezifuna zam ndavela ndaza nazo. Yaba just a week.
Okay.
Then ke ngoba bandinike loan.
And the repayments are corner, is that right?
Oh, it's affordable. The repayments are corner.
So uyisebenzise kangakhi lenko?
Ndithathe i-loans eziyi-2.
Okay. Ufumana njani yesibini? Ugqibe yokuqala ufumana yesibini kuhamba njani?
Bathe mandibhatale for 3 months. After that 3 months bavela bandinika nje nye loan.
If and you needed it, bakunika. Okay. So yonke le mali yakhe indlu?
Ewe, yonke le mali ndakhe ngayo indlu, but ke ngondishote ngeplastering ngaphandle kuphela.
Okay, kodwa iseza na. Iland could izawunceda apha?
Bathe bazondinika iland coin, bazondinika enye loan.
Yeah, uvuyile ngayo ne?
Ndivuya kakhulu.
Okay. So ngandibonisa uba le mali isebenza entoni?
Ngiyakubonisa but.
Okay. So uzakhela ntoni ezi room?
Ndizakhela for urentisa.
Okay, yaba ibhizinisi.
Ndifuna ukwenza ibhizinesi.
Okay, masibone ngaphakathi. Okay. Seyinomntu le room ke?
Ewe, seyinabantu.
Okay.
Abantwana besikolo
abantwana besikolo. Okay. The Rural Housing Loan Fund works through intermediaries such as Lenco, who in turn conduct their business in rural areas via carefully selected retail stores such as this one. John, tell me about Lenco and your relationship to the Rural Housing Loan Fund.
We've had a wonderful relationship with Rural Housing. They contacted me 5 years ago. They had 2 companies which were in a bit of financial distress, and they approached me to have a look at these 2 companies to see if we couldn't get them out of their financial distress and refocus them into specifically the delivery of housing. We embarked upon the consolidation of these 2 companies into one company, being Lencore, and from that point we moved into the marketplace to the hardware merchants. And over the 5 years we built up a network of just over 700 hardware merchants around South Africa, dominated by the merchants in the rural areas.
Tell me what Lenco does to begin with. What exactly do you guys do?
We focus the business into funding building material for the lower income group people, and we have a product which is representing for the pensioners. Okay. So pensioners can get building material on credit over 9 months with us, and then the lower income people who earn salaries of 5,000-7,000 rand a month, they can also enjoy the benefits of getting a loan through Lencore.
How do people apply for Lenco loans?
They come to the store itself. On some occasions we have our own representation within the store. In a lot of instances we have the store people who will then complete an application form, a Lencore application form that is, and submit the copy of their ID and payslip and latest bank statement to us in order that we can do the risk assessment and the affordability. On the granting of the loan, we actually pay the store direct, and the customer then will have the goods delivered, or they will take the goods themselves through their own transport arrangement.
So to get it right, you are basically the retail arm of the Rural Housing Loan Fund.
Correct.
Okay, so,
Correct.
and you use warehouse stores like this, building material stores, to get people to apply for loans.
Correct.
So they become your distribution points. Now, how do people know that a particular building materials vendor is also a Lencore loan vendor?
We distribute a lot of information into the community via the community radio stations, advertising material. We'll go to pay points where people are collecting pensions and where there's a lot of people at shopping centres, and bring it to their attention that there are hardware stores in the area that do provide credit, so they can go to these stores and apply for credit through Lencore. We have over 700 stores around the whole of South Africa through all the provinces, and mainly in the rural areas, and we really are servicing the communities in those areas.
Typically, what length of time do your clients get to repay the loans?
From 6 months to 24 months, and they can choose the period they'd like to repay the loan over.
Yeah. And what kind of interest rates are we talking about?
We charge 3.32% per month, well within the National Credit Act's recommendations. And the other point about our loans is that the instalment is fixed for the duration of the contract. They are not downstream of interest rate movements. So if the interest rate goes up in South Africa, their instalment stays exactly the same.
Now, what kind of bad loans do you get, if any? What's the repayment like in this market?
It's a difficult market. We are very cautious, very careful, and the reason we are cautious and careful is people are building their homes, and we want them to come back and repeat their loans with us. And it's very easy for us, if they wanted to go and buy another kind of retail product, to lend them maybe a lot of money, and they walk away and they never come back. They're building a home, and it's very, very important, because that's where their family are going to live. And you want them to build that home with the knowledge that they can afford the loans that they are getting. They're not going to get into trouble by borrowing more money than they can afford to pay back. And therefore, we'll only lend people the amount of money that we believe they can realistically afford to pay us back. And I think that's why we are successful in the marketplace. People can rely on us to the extent that they know that we won't overcommit them, and we nurture them through bad times as well. We do have bad debt. Of course we've got bad debt, but we try and minimize that bad debt by the rehabilitation of the customer's account. If they've had a problem and a funeral in the family, we get them back on track again, paying their account with us. Even if they do take slightly longer than the agreed term, we say we accept that kind of thing. It's not what we would like, but we understand that people do have problems from time to time.
Who qualifies for Lencore loans?
Anybody who can qualify for a Lencore loan. You know, we try to assist people right from the pensioners, but it doesn't matter what income bracket it is. If a person wants to use Lencore and they qualify, we would certainly assist them to get building material. We have on occasions people who are high income earners who use Lencore because they are buying building material in a very rural area to provide a home or an additional part of a home for their parents or their grandparents. So we will never turn anybody away who applies for a loan from us.
How many people have you helped build houses so far? Any idea?
Yes, we have. There's probably, I think, in the region of about 40,000 people in the last few years that we've assisted. And so a lot of those people come back to us. And people that have taken 3, 4, 5 loans, and that's exactly what we want them to do. They start off, they might build one room, then they'll add on to that room, and so their home gets bigger and bigger. And we've been very fortunate as well that people have recognized the company for what it is and have utilized the company. And it's been a lot of fun too.
Yeah,
a lot of fun.
Thank you for coming on BNG.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Yes, yeah. Let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll look at somebody else who was helped by the Rural Housing Loan Fund. Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us. Here's someone else who benefited from the Rural Housing Loan Fund.
Ndinomthunzi Somana, ndihlala eDutywa, ndiphangela eDutywa eMida School, ndiyimatron yakhona. Ikhaya lam apho kwam kukuMputi eDutywa. Ndihlala apha eDutywa ngokomsebenzi. Umzi wam upha kuMputi, ndakha pha kuMputi indlu yam. Emveni koba ndigqibile ukuyakha indlu yam, ndizawubuyela endlini. Kusehostel apha kulapho ndihlala khona kunye nabantwana abayi-24. Ingxaki inye ke ndihlala nabo but incinci kakhulu le ndawo ndihlala kuyo. Ewe, noba ndikuvuyela ukuba lapha kodwa okubalulekileyo ngokungoba andizuphelela apha, ndifuna le ndisebenzele abantwana bam kube khona lapho ndifumana khona indawo erayithi. Kukhona apho bendiye khona kuqala ezibhankini, ndiyacinga uba ziye zabantathu iibhanki endiye ndaya kuzo. Ndihamba ndifuna iloan kuba ndifuna ukwakha. Kwacaba kuba imali yam ingekho ninzi for uba ndingafumana imali ebhankini, ndacaba ndiyabetheka ke ngoku. Ndazulazula ndizama ufuna nasebantwini kaba ayinawukwazi uba ndiyifumane le mali. Kulapho ke ndiye ndacinga ngokuza apha kwale. Oh, ndifike ndancedakala kakhulu kwa-Build It, kulapho kwaLandco. Ndikwilowuni yesibini ngoku apha kwa-Build It. And andivanga bunzima kwi-akhawunti endiyifumanayo ngenxa yemali yam endiyamkelayo. Ndiye ndafumanisa uba noko iyafikeleleka, ndingakwazi uafoda uba ndiqhubekeke nayo. Kuye kwabalula kakhulu. Ndibhatala ebhankini. Ndaye ndafakelwa itsalwa phaa kwi-debit order yakhona. Bayitsala phaa ebhankini ngokwe-akhawunti yam esebhankini. Ndicinga uba ndifuna ibe yindlu enkulu ukwenzela ukuthi abantwana bam bobayi-4 bonele, babe nayo iroom nganye, umntana abe neroom yakhe. Kuye kwabalula ngoba ndiye ndathi xa sendibuza kubo uba ndingakwazi ukubhatala kanjani, bandichazela ke kakuhle ukuthi uba unobhatala imali encinci ngohlobo like i-installment yam yabancinci kakhulu, ndaqonda uba ndingakwazi ukuyibhatala le akhawunti yam ngoba kaloku bendingenawukwazi xa ingaphezulu even emvuzweni wam. Ne-system endibhatala ngayo ilula kakhulu.
After the break, we talk to the CEO of the Rural Housing Loan Fund. Stay with us. Welcome back, and thanks for watching. It would appear that the Rural Housing Loan Fund has some really satisfied clients out in the rural areas where it's most needed. But is there anything that this government agency can do to improve? To discuss this, amongst other questions, is its CEO, Willem van Immenis. Welcome to BNG.
Thank you very much, Eric.
Yeah. Let's start at the beginning. How and when was this agency started, and what for?
The Rural Housing Loan Fund was started in 1996, one of the initiatives by the government to create access to credit, specifically in rural areas. It was supported initially by a grant from the German government in terms of a bilateral agreement with the South African government of 50 million Deutsche Mark at the time, approximately 150 million rand. And it was specifically focusing on improving the general living conditions of rural households. In particular, poor rural households, people earning less than 7,500 rand per month currently, In 1996, it was people earning less than 1,800 rand per month. So we actually increased the income threshold over time to include more people living in rural areas.
And what are its mechanics exactly? How does it work?
It works as a wholesale lender. It works through retail partners or housing microfinance institutions. It grants wholesale funding. Those entities then use technology to risk assess the affordability levels of end users, if they can afford to repay the loans. And they use quite a wide distribution network through building material suppliers, which you visited. One of our clients worked through the South African Post Office, where they offer the loans through the Post Office network. Other clients use mobile agents, where they actually, because rural areas is quite dispersed, to bring loans and create access to credit is quite complicated, and one of the major challenges that we face.
So how many retailers have you got working for you at the moment?
At the moment, we've got 11 intermediaries that we fund. Our loan book outstanding with those intermediaries is 176 million rand. But there's also other funders in private sector. One of the challenges that we faced is how do we actually demonstrate that rural people are good credit risk, and we crowd in private sector. I mean, that's part of our main objectives, is to demonstrate that rural people is a good credit risk. Through bringing in private sector funding, we currently, through our 11 intermediaries, support about a loan book of 680 million rand in the 11 intermediaries.
You talked about getting normal banks, private sector businesses, to see the creditworthiness of rural people. That's as one challenge. In what way is that a challenge for you specifically, if I may ask, and what are other challenges, if there are any?
Affordability remains a key constraint in our target market. The NCA is very punitive if you do reckless lending. So all our lenders are rigorously selecting good credit quality clients who can actually afford to pay. One of the interesting things that actually emerged over the last 11, 12 years since Ralph's inception is that 52% of the loans granted goes to women-headed households. And many of those women have been able for the first time to access credit in their own names, which gives them control over their household income. They can now improve, extend their houses, create new habitable space, privacy. Even children, in terms of education, have now a better opportunity to study at night and have more privacy to improve the education.
When you look back all the way to 96, coming up to now, what are the highlights of working with the Rural Housing Loan Fund?
To date, cumulatively, we've managed to assist 164,000 borrowers to get access to credit. One of the calls of the President in 2001, when the 13 rural nodes were highlighted and pronounced, our lenders, and we've tried to encourage and motivate our lenders to create opportunities and look for opportunities to create access to credit in those rural nodes. To date, for the last 12 months, ending March 2008, we have managed through our intermediaries to grant loans to over 9,000 borrowers to the value of over 44 million rand in those really depressed areas. If you look at the rural nodes, there's unemployment rates of up to 80%. So we've been quite proud of the achievement of Ralph and also its intermediaries. As I said, creating access to credit for women-headed households, 52% gone to women-headed households. And 58% of people earn less than 3,500 rand. So it's really borrowers or the rural working poor that have an opportunity to improve their general living condition.
And how does what you do, what's the best fit do you think it has with the Breaking New Ground strategy?
Breaking New Ground is premised on 4 thrusts. We support 3 of those thrusts. Financial services market, in terms of trying to get the big banks and other financial institutions involved in creating access to credit and delivering credit in our target market. As far as incremental housing is concerned, that's our core business. and also rural housing. Maintaining and protecting indigenous knowledge systems where people can actually build, extend, they can actually go to a building material supplier, buy more durable building materials, they can improve and extend their housing situation. Those are the three thrusts that we participate. The other one is rental housing. I think in the field you've seen situations and instances where people actually extend, they build on an extra room, and they rent it out for additional and to augment the household income. Productive housing, that's what we call productive housing, running home-based businesses like sewing, creches, spaza shops from some of the extensions that has been financed by our intermediaries.
Looking forward, 10 years and beyond, where do you see RAF going?
I think in the next 3 to 5 years, we still are looking for other lenders that has got a distribution capacity and network to penetrate our target market. We're looking to work with some of our existing successful intermediaries to pilot and new products. In terms of NCA, we are able now to offer larger, longer tenor loans that is repayable over a longer period of time. Still unsecured, but we would like to share the risk with some of those lenders that actually grant a unsecured loan for, let's say, 30,000 or 50,000 rand over a period of 5 years to make the installments affordable on a monthly basis. Because as you know, 85 to 90% of the population cannot get access to mortgage because it's too expensive or they earn too little. So incremental housing, in our view and in our eyes, is definitely a solution and an alternative to mortgage finance.
Well, Willem, thanks for coming on BNG. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Eric.
Please remember to send us photographs of the improvements you've made to your government house, and you could win 10,000 Rand in additional materials. Send your pictures to P.O. Box 31201, Bramfontein 2017, or email it to bng@housing.gov.za. That's it for this edition of Breaking New Ground. Join us again, please, next week at the same time, 10 p.m. right here on SABC2. From me and the BNG team, so long.